I think MIT's involvement with switching had been partly because they were, I believe, one of the first locations in the United States to have an automatic switching center. And so some of the faculty was very involved in that activity. The transition from analog transmission of data to digital transmission of it has made many things possible in the way of social networks and various other things that otherwise would not have been possible. The communication obviously existed before that time, but there was a real quantum change with Shannon's work. As far as industry, this is a personal opinion, and I'm sure some of my colleagues from industry would disagree with it, but initially they were very reluctant to place much emphasis or accept the consequences of Shannon's theory, information theory. And I remember being in many discussions at the time where from their point of view the world was about what is often called POTS, plain old telephone service, not television, but plain old telephone service, and that data would never become as important as providing that POTS. And they obviously changed in time. It was a slow evolution, but his work is now pervasive in all of the communication industry, but particularly in terms of the use of redundancy, coding, if you prefer that word, as a way of being able to improve communication as much as you want, as long as the data rate is less than that thing called channel capacity. And that it used to be the only way to do that was to try to get more power. And his work put quite a different emphasis on it. Well, I can share some of my personal experiences with Shannon with you, if you like.
Wonderful.
These are one person's observations, although I think in large part they are similar to what I have seen other people say or write. He obviously was a brilliant person and did magnificent things. As an individual, he was a little unusual in that regard. Many very bright people have huge egos, and it's very important to them to be at the center of the stage. Not all of them, obviously, but it's not uncommon. But with Shannon, he was fairly reserved, fairly quiet, very considerate, very engaging. I mean, he was not somehow an isolated person in his little cubicle. It is reported that he occasionally rode his unicycle on the halls of MIT when he was here. He was a juggler. When I was in graduate school and he was on the faculty here, he did something that predated the recreational vehicles of today. There were some camping trailers available then, but this would have been probably late 60s. No, it would have been earlier than that. It would have been mid to early 60s, that he bought a bus and basically converted it, rebuilt it to be a forerunner of the luxurious recreational vehicles that exist today. And that he and his family used it to go all sorts of places. He also was a very generous person, and one manifestation of that was when I was a graduate student and in the same group he was in, although he was not present a great deal by that time for a variety of reasons, and his office desk was stacked with papers that high all over. But I am originally from the Midwest, and I guess that shares some background with him, although with me it was further south in Kansas and Missouri. And I would occasionally make trips back to that area in a microbus I owned. And so he loaned me some of the accessories from his bus to kind of make my trip a little easier, which I thought was very gracious. And he was quite a person, quite a person. I am told this was actually maybe first suggested by Marvin Minsky, but he made a little box called the Ultimate Machine. A box with a switch on it, and when you push the switch, the lid would come out, a hand would reach out and turn off the switch and retract, and the lid would close. And a machine that was totally in control of what happened to it. When this arm came out, it kind of came out quickly. It was sort of narrow, a little bit sinister looking. Grabbed the handle, turned it off,
Okay.
and then went back in the box.